Hello student. In this video I am going to discuss about about project management, but actually it will be like an overview of the whole system design as a whole. Means how, suppose we have studied what are the things need to be done in case of system design and analysis, but also in the same time we need to look after the management point of view also, like how the work will be done and how we understand the requirements and how we create the scope of the project and how we create the work breakdown structure. Actually, whatever we have studied till now is related to this angle also. So the scope of a project. Project scope management is one of the most critical project management knowledge areas, and scope defines all the work that is required to complete the project successfully, and only the work that is required, no more, no less. So project scope management is one of the most critical project management knowledge areas. Means it is the most critical you need to apply for the critical project management knowledge areas. Scope defines like all the work that is required to complete the project successfully. You need to understand and you need to define within that scope only the work that is required, no more, no less. So you need to define whatever the work you are going to do, not more than that, not less than that. Means everything that you are going to do needs to be included in the scope or need to be defined in the scope. This latter point is critical. Means what, that is the amount of work or the measurement of the work is critical. Project scope management defines and control what is and what is not part of the project work. So project scope management defines and control what is and what is not part of the project work. And here you can see we have to go through a planning to define the scope. Scope planning is concerned with choosing the most appropriate, most effective approach to manage the scope of the project. So in the planning of the scope, we need to concern about what type of thing or what choosing a most appropriate or most effective approach. Means how can we manage the scope of the project. Scope planning defines how to define the scope. So in case of scope planning, we are actually thinking about the scope, how to define the scope. That is about the planning. Means we need to define the whole scope of the project. We will develop the detailed project scope statement, define and develop the WPS, verify the project scope, control project scope. So these are the main things that we are going to do in case of scope planning. Scope planning takes two primary inputs: the project sorter and the preliminary project scope statement. Scope planning results in a project scope management plan. The project detailed scope statement is an evolved version of the preliminary project scope statement. So here you can see in the third bullet point, that is there will be two primary inputs. One is project charter and preliminary project scope statement. So here you can see the project detailed scope statement. So the project detailed scope statement is an evolved version of the preliminary project scope statement. Content requirements are identical to the preliminary version, or content or template requirements are identical to the preliminary version. Actually, content of the detailed scope definition should reflect any additional information gathered since preliminary scope statement. So inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. Inputs are like project management plan, project charter, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, tools and techniques, expert judgments, meetings. Outputs will be like scope management plan, and requirements management plan. So in case of scope management plan, according to this reference PMBOK 5, the scope management plan can be formal or informal, broadly framed or highly detailed based on the need of the project. So actually whatever we are going to do in case of scope management plan, or defining the scope or defining the planning of the scope, we are going to be like, might be formal ways or might be informal ways, or it might be broadly framed or it might be highly detailed based on the needs of the project. This course adopts the informal broadly framed perspective. So we here in this slide also, or throughout this course also, we have talked about informal and broadly framed perspective. The components of a scope management plan include process for preparing detailed project scope statement, process that enables the creation of the WBS from the detailed project scope statement, process that establishes how the WBS or work breakdown structure will be maintained and approved, process that specifies how formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables will be obtained, process to control how requests for changes to the detailed project scope statement will be processed. This process is directly linked to the perform integrated change control process. So here various components of scope management plans are included. First one is about preparing a detailed project scope statement. Second one is about how we can enable, or how it enables to create the WBS or work breakdown structure from the detail of the project statement. And then third one is about how we establish, or how that process that establish how the WBS will be maintained and approved throughout the project work. Fourth one is process that specify how formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables will be obtained, means how your work will be accepted formally, and how your deliverables will be accepted or completed and will be delivered or will be obtained by the users. It will specify scope management plan will specify that. Process to control how requests for changes to the detailed project scope statement will process, means how we can control or process to control the request for changes. If there is anything need to be done or anything need to be changed afterwards, then those requests need to be controlled, and that will be as a component of the scope management plan also. So these things will be included in the scope management plan, means everything will be inside this management plan. So requirements of the management plan are like, components of the requirements management plan can include but are not limited to. So here whatever is written down, it might not be limited to this only, it might be more than this, but we can go through this to understand what are the requirements need in case of management plan. How requirements activities will be planned, tracked and reported. Configuration management activities such as how changes to the product will be initiated, how impacts will be analyzed, how they will be traced, tracked and reported. So in case of requirements management plan, we need to understand all the activities and those need to be planned, tracked and reported. You need to configure management activities such as how changes to the product will be initiated. If there will be any changes in the product comes, then you need to understand how those changes to the product will be initiated, how impacts will be initialized or analyzed, how they will be traced, tracked and reported, and also authorization level requires to approve these changes. Requirements prioritization process, product metrics that will be used and rationale for using them, traceability structure to reflect which requirements attributes will be captured on the traceability matrix. So here you can see this is one DFT or simple DFT in case of scope management. Here you can see this is one function. This is project scope management. So develop project charter, plan scope management. This is data flow diagram in case of scope management only. So here you can see develop project charter, that is the input. Develop project management plan, that is the also input. Enterprise organization, those things will be inputted in case of plan scope management, and it will be breakdown in these three different items: collect requirements, define scope, and create WPS. So in case of develop project charter, that is a project charter input. Develop project management plan, that input will be project management plan. Organizational process, assets, enterprise, environmental factors, those will be inputted in this also. And then this is scope management plan, and this is requirement management plan. In case of requirement management plan also, we try to collect the requirements. In case of scope management plan also, we try to collect the requirements, define the scope, and create the WBS. So this is data flow diagram in case of plan scope management only. So here one thing is that recall the most critical lesson for Standish Group 2009 chaos report. Actually this is a report, this is just an reference, but it tries to make you understand that requirements. So requirements are unclear, incomplete, or the project management methodology does not accommodate changing requirements effectively. So requirements is the most important and foremost thing to be done in case of any project. Collecting initial requirements is a critical step in managing requirements over the course of the project. So in an iterative or incremental or adaptive or agile project, requirements collection continues throughout the life cycle of the project. So it will go on and on until your project is completed. So requirement analysis is very, very important throughout the project. So that is the point making through that report. Requirements elicitation and analysis requires a complete course. We touch on a topic here for completeness. Business requirements. So there are different types of requirements. Business requirements, which describe the high level needs of the organization as a whole. It's like increase e-commerce purchase by 25%. That is a business oriented data, and which will be required to describe the high level needs of the organization as a whole. Stakeholder requirements describe the needs of a particular stakeholder, especially with respect to external stakeholder. Example like as the site owner, I want the site supply chain application to interface with a website. Functional requirements describe the behavior of the product. Example, as a retailer customer, I am able to shop by brand or product category. That is functional requirements. Non-functional requirements might be like describe the behavioral qualities required for the product to be effective. Example is like as the website owner, I want the site to be available 99.99% of the time over a 1 year period. Transition requirements. So describe temporary capabilities such as data conversion and training requirements needed to transition from the current to the future state. Example is like as a data entry clerk, I want to be able to use the keyboard shortcuts from the previous order system so that I can maintain my level of productivity. So you can understand that transition requirements also needed in this kind of situation. Project requirements describe the actions, processes, or other conditions the project needs to meet. Like project must use the hybrid plan driven, iterative, and agile methodology. Quality requirements capture condition or criteria needed to validate the successful completion of the project deliverable. So example, as a site owner, I want a retail customer taste group to be able to successfully search for and find a requested product within 30 seconds. So this type of actually quality or reliability or project requirements, transition requirements These are different types of requirements at different stages of the project. So next, this whole slide and topic will carry for more videos, because this is a long thing to understand. This is actually basically in with the perspective of understanding the system design and analysis from the management point of view, and actually we need to understand this also. So I'll try to go through these videos. It will take 3 or 4 videos at least, and we'll go through this. And might be this will be the last topic for your course. And but also, if anything need to be completed or need to be come up with for you, then I'll come up with before ending the course. So but whatever I'm going through in this video, please try to go through them. And also you can find different information in other literatures also, in websites, in internet, or in the book also. Please go through them. And if you want to add something, or if you have any doubt, or if you have any confusion, then also ask me. We'll try to resolve those things over Google Meet. Thank you.